Hey there, Alux, welcome back. Today's chat is a little bit longer than usual because we really wanted to do all of these obstacles justice. You might not face every one of them in your life. We certainly hope not. But chances are you've faced some of these already, and you've probably come across people who faced others. Understanding the gravity of these obstacles for yourself and the people around you can help you appreciate how far you've come. It can motivate you to keep pushing when you just feel like you don't have it in you anymore, and it can inspire you with the power of human resilience. Our Alux app takes deeper, more comprehensive dives into different topics like these, so if you enjoyed this video, give the app a try. We've seen some exceptional results so far. Oh, and one more thing. We're proud of you, okay, for listening, for learning, and for how far you've already come, but the journey's not over, my friend. Here are the 15 biggest obstacles you'll have in life. Starting off with number 1, being born poor. By far, one of the biggest obstacles and motivators anyone will face in life is being born into poverty. There are many levels to this, and each level before the supportive, comfortable middle-class line is a challenge. You can be right at the bottom, born into a family that struggles to put food on the table, parents who are hardly home because they work multiple jobs, and constantly needing to move homes and schools because your family can't afford to pay rent. You could also be born into a family with parents who seem to have good jobs on the outside, but they support multiple family members and there's loads of debt. So while you've got food on the table, the idea of going to college or getting any extra financial support is a pipe dream. Being born poor is like needing to climb to the top of a mountain, and the poorer you are, the more weight you have on your back. As long as you keep pulling, slowly but surely you'll get stronger and the weight will get more bearable. You will make it to the top with everyone else. Maybe a little bit behind them, but way, way stronger. Then there's number 2, being born into a low-income country. Would you rather be poor in a developed country or a low-income country? Research shows you've got way more opportunities being born poor in a developed country because many of them, except the USA, have access to free education, healthcare, and social welfare. If being born poor is like trying to climb a mountain with a heavy weight attached to you, being born poor in a low-income country is like swimming in a stormy sea with that weight of a heavy ship trailing behind. Nothing is impossible. Someone might see you swimming in that stormy sea and come to help you, but for many people, the thought of making it to shore isn't even an idea that can be considered. Some do it though. Through all of the challenges, they make it through, which is pretty incredible. Number 3, growing up too quickly and fear. Now, what could growing up too quickly and fear have to do with each other? Well, growing up too quickly should give you an advantage over everyone else because you have more self-awareness and a better idea of how the world works, right? Well, while that is kinda true, our brains are designed to develop at a specific pace. This pace helps us to conquer challenges just when we're ready for them. When your mental growth is accelerated, you lose that risk-taking thrill that helps you let go of the fear of failure. Okay, so here's how this works. 3 parts of your brain work together to evaluate risk, process fear, and make decisions. They are the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, and the hippocampus. So the hippocampus helps contextualize fear responses by recalling past experiences. If you have a difficult fear-based life growing up, well, your hippocampus will be more dominant and will stop you from taking risks. If you watch the adults in your life show poor impulse control and decision-making, then your prefrontal cortex is likely to kick in early with its warnings. You're supposed to take risks when you're young. You're supposed to be fearless. But you can't do that when you are forced to grow up too fast. Number 4, entering the traditional school system. 99.9% of people consuming this content right now have been a part of the traditional school system. If you weren't, please let us know in the comments what kind of school you went to. Now, the traditional school system is a wild, disappointing farce. It goes against thousands of years of human development and evolution. It goes against what our brains and body want to do, and it keeps us nicely and uniformly in line. Some people step in line easier than others. Many struggle and feel inadequate because they can't follow the sit for 8 hours, read, write, listen, go home, and do homework rules. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, okay? We say that people have learning difficulties or dyslexia or slow development. The feeling of getting a report card that shows results so much lower than your peers is one of the most gut-wrenching feelings as a child. And you blame yourself. But it's not you, okay? The pressures of standardized testing, the focus on memory, reading, and recall, the one-size-fits-all approach, and the limited real-world application make the current school system one of the biggest obstacles to success, motivation, and self-belief. Number 5. Toxic relationships. Have you heard these lines before? Let them cry it out. It'll strengthen their lungs. They won't remember anything anyway. This is probably one of the most damaging parenting beliefs of the last 100 years, because it turns out babies do remember. They remember a lot. Toxic relationships start far earlier in life than many of us realize and have a far greater effect. Attachment theory tells us that within the first 2 years of a child's life, infants are especially attuned to developing close, intimate bonds with their caregivers. For the first 5 years of a child's life, they're unbelievably responsive to social cues and emotional responses of their caregivers. They're taking everything in. Their new brains are like sponges, soaking up everything and forming the foundation of how they'll view relationships for the rest of their lives. If you don't have supportive, loving caregivers from both parents during this time, well, the relationships you build throughout your life will be on shaky, confused foundations. Good relationships and emotional regulation are critical to your future success in every aspect of your life. When you realize you don't have this, it's like you have to go back right to the beginning, to the very bottom of memory and idea formation, unearth what's there, and start over from scratch. It's a lot of work, sure, but it'll help you so much with your future relationships in every part of your life. You'll be able to spot when someone is genuine and when they're wasting your time. You'll be able to allow yourself to be vulnerable with good people and have the strength to walk away from unhealthy relationships. Number 6. Not being conventionally attractive. Being good-looking is a major advantage, and just like being born poor, there are levels to it. Studies using functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, show that seeing faces deemed attractive activates the brain's reward circuits. This area is associated with pleasure and reward. So attractive faces are just inherently more pleasurable to look at. From an evolutionary standpoint, attractiveness often signals health, fertility, and good genetics. The brain forms first impressions within milliseconds of seeing a face. So attractive people are automatically attributed with positive traits like talent, kindness, and intelligence, a phenomenon known as the halo effect. And the opposite is also true for people who are not considered conventionally attractive. Research shows less attractive people get fewer job offers regardless of their skills or qualifications. Even the wage gap shows a beauty premium and a plainness penalty, where attractive people earn higher wages and less attractive people earn less. We've also seen that people who aren't considered conventionally attractive experience social exclusion and even a lower social status. Very attractive people, even when they're born poor, have a big advantage in life. They stand out in a crowd. People gravitate toward them and are more inclined to give them jobs, take them out, and even trust them. Semi-attractive people might not get as many offers as the very attractive folks, but they still have better opportunities. Then there are people who are not conventionally attractive. As a child, you're more likely to be made fun of and be put down. You really have to work on developing a great personality so people want to be around you, and that takes a good degree of early self-awareness. Your self-esteem also takes a hit. We like to believe that we're a progressive, accepting society, but we've got a lifetime of biological and societal biases to overcome. The 7th obstacle on this list is being surrounded by unsupportive people. Now this one is a lot more subtle than toxic relationships, because unsupportive people can be visibly critical, and sometimes they hide their true motives, insulting you and bringing you down under the guise of supporting you. It can be a parent constantly commenting on your weight, your results at school, or your lack of a romantic partner. It could be a friend making those jokey comments in front of everyone that seem innocent, but it makes the hair on your arms stand up. These people don't directly sabotage you, but they do get into your head. Your mind picks up on the negative things they say, it takes it in, and it internalizes them. It thinks, if someone who loves me thinks that I'm not good enough for it, then maybe I'm not. And that thought floats around, rearing its head just when you need a confidence boost, but plays on your self-doubt instead. When you're not this kind of person, it can be hard to understand why someone else would be this way with you. You lean toward thinking that maybe they're right, and they're just looking out for you. But wait, okay? Are they? Are they really? The next time a good friend or a loving family member makes a comment that puts you on alert, where your breath quickens, your eyes widen, and you feel that rushing sound in your ears, that's your unconscious brain telling you there is a threat. It's picking up on something that you are missing. So listen to what it's telling you. Pay attention and get to work realizing that this person isn't coming from a genuine place. Number 8. Too much self-awareness about the way society works. The older you get, the more you realize that ignorance, well, it really can be bliss. You see, there's 3 sides to this one. 2 of them get you ahead and 1 of them makes you jaded. First, you don't know how society works and functions, and you just go about your life happily living in ignorance. Everything's good. 2, you've got an idea of how things work, but you also know you have to play the game to have some sort of fun and peace. Everything's good, kinda. And 3, you know how things work and they're kinda messed up and you want no part of it. You're always unhappy because you think everything is based on money and power, and that's not fair, nothing is good, and you're a nihilist. In a factual, more direct world, maybe number 3 is the truthful one, but life doesn't really have room for blanket statements. There are nuances and exceptions. There's nothing wrong with being aware of how the world works. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to follow all of the rules. But if you reject everything, you will stand alone with nothing. Number 9. Social awkwardness and anxiety. Social awkwardness and anxiety is one of those frustrating aspects of life where the more aware of it you are, the more you experience it. We saw it with people coming out of COVID lockdown and isolation. People who were once social butterflies became scared of big groups. They avoided going out, talking to people, and interacting. Some went the exposure therapy route and slowly integrated themselves back into society, and after a while it felt almost normal again. And some people decided that they were happier being on their own. They decided to stay in more and do their own thing. Which is fine when it comes to going out to bars and clubs or places with a lot of people. But it becomes a problem when your capacity for social interactions shrinks so much that going to a job interview with more than one person brings on a panic attack, or sitting in a meeting room with a group of people at work makes you so anxious you feel sick. To survive and thrive in this world, you need to be able to interact with people from small to large groups. And it's a hard obstacle to overcome when your social awkwardness stems from childhood. You were too young to understand that it's important to have friends, and too young to figure out how to do it, so your awkwardness and anxiety continued to build. By the time you're an adult, you know people see you as a little bit weird, and this affects your progress in so many areas. Friendships, romantic partnerships, networking in your career. Relationships and being able to interact with people are really important, so you have to intentionally take steps to be good at this. Number 10, and this one might surprise a few people, being the most successful person in your family. Now, a lot of you listening today are the most successful person in your family or are on your way to becoming that person. It might not seem like an obstacle at all. In fact, it's what you've always wanted. You want to give back to your family because they've sacrificed and done so much for you. But as your success increases, so do your responsibilities. You'll want to give your family more as much as possible, and you'll start to feel the pressure of their livelihood depending on you. This is often referred to as black tax, which refers to financial support that successful Black people are expected to provide to their extended family members. Not only do they pay for their families to live and eat, they also pay for college, schooling, and basic necessities for extended family members. And while this happens across all races and countries, it's a really common thing in Black communities because of historical economic disparity. But this black tax delays financial milestones, reduces your opportunities for savings and investments, it limits your career choices, not to mention creates an extreme amount of stress and pressure. But anyone who's been in this position knows there's only one path. Leave no man behind, no family left in the dust. Number 11, being a people pleaser. How bad can being a people pleaser really be? Well, like social awkwardness and anxiety, it comes with this almost exponential growth. When you do something that makes someone else happy and they compliment you, thank you, speak nicely about you to other people, well, the reward centers in your brain start firing off and lighting up like you've hit the score on that boxing machine game at the carnival. So you want more of that. Eventually, you become so addicted to getting compliments that you're afraid to let people down, and you box yourself in so much, you never do anything for yourself anymore. You hate your job, but you won't quit because you don't want to hurt or disappoint people. You're unhappy in your relationship, but you won't leave because you don't want your partner to be sad. You do anything anyone else asks you because you don't want them to hate you. You become so enmeshed with what other people want that you erode all knowledge and understanding of the things you want and like, which is a big-time obstacle to living authentically. Number 12. Not understanding your passion. Is it true that we all have a passion, something we're good at and we enjoy? Reality can be more complex, and whether or not everyone has a passion that is predestined or clear-cut is debatable. Some people have a broad range of passions, and the idea that you have to pin one down and focus on that one thing is wrong. Interests, hobbies, and passions change over time. So it's not really about finding your passion, it's about understanding it. Understand that it will change over time. Understand there might not be one all-consuming thing that brings you ultimate fulfillment. But also know that it's important to go after the things you like. You won't feel successful until you're doing something that you at least enjoy. And even if you lose that passion after a while, just know that it's normal for your interests to change as you change, and feel out which direction you'd like to follow next. Number 13, mental health issues. Where do we even begin with the obstacles that mental health issues create? It's frustrating because it feels like you should be fine. You've got a car in seemingly perfect condition that just won't start. Even people who don't struggle with ongoing mental health issues have those days where motivation is low, inconsequential things seem absolutely dire, and you question what you're doing here. For many people, this feeling fades away after a few hours or a good night's rest. But imagine that it doesn't. Every day is a fight with your own mind just to keep on moving, which is hard when you can't focus, you feel tired all the time, and you lack motivation. As things escalate, you start withdrawing just when you need people around you. And although we have a better understanding of mental health now and people want to be supportive, it can still also be frustrating or confusing for the friends, family, and colleagues of people who suffer from these kinds of issues. And on a related note, number 14, physical health issues. Because few things are more of an obstacle to success than physical health issues. It's truly one of those things that nobody can understand unless they've experienced it themselves. Sometimes you're born with them, and sometimes they come about later in life. Sometimes they're visible, and sometimes it's invisible, like chronic pain, something people cannot see, but absolutely affects everything you do. But on the same token, we've also seen people excel here. Our brains are incredibly adaptable, and if there's some predictability to the treatment, the doctor's visits, or the ailment or illness, we can find ways to work around it. But as with everything on this list, the level of severity determines the size of the obstacle. And number 15, sudden loss of a loved one. Now, those who've lost someone close to them very suddenly, well, they move through the world a little bit differently. There's a veil between them and the real world. It comes with both detachment and appreciation of life. To our brains, physical and emotional pain are equally crucial survival mechanisms. So when one of them is affected, the same regions of our brains respond. It's why emotional pain can feel so intensely physical, that pain spreading across your entire body. There's also a cognitive dissonance that comes with loss. It creates a serious discrepancy between the world as we know it and the new reality that we have to face. This cognitive dissonance can be psychologically painful and disorienting as our brains struggle to reconcile these two conflicting realities. And through all of this, the world goes on like normal, and we're just expected to do that too. Now, of course, we're gonna go slightly crazy trying to live a normal life while reality is in turmoil. Of course, it's gonna be a huge obstacle to face. It can seem so unfair, and the only thing you can do is give yourself time and a lot of grace. All right, that about wraps up the list, but since you stuck with us until the very end, you are getting a bonus, and today's bonus obstacle is not having enough discipline to create motivation. Now, discipline refers to the ability to pursue what you think is right despite temptations to abandon it. Some people are more disciplined than others because of genetics, family, culture, and their educational environment. If you don't have that structure and you're listening to this struggling with your discipline, know that you absolutely can train yourself. You start off slowly because, well, training takes a lot of discipline and you probably don't have that just yet. So you need a really strong strategic system. Very small goals at first. If you fail, go back to the drawing board and make them even smaller. And you inch yourself forward just a little bit each time. You practice small acts of self-control regularly. You allow that voice in your mind to scream no just a little bit louder, and you create routines that make productive habits a little easier. It'll take you 1 year of consistency to move from low discipline to exceptional discipline. It is possible, my friend, so let's go after it.